Okay, welcome. So today we are continuing our discussion on 52 mental factors. I think you may all have this copy. Do you have extra over there? Yes. I think you got yours.
Yeah. No, I was saying it.
Oh, thanks. So I see some new faces. Would you like to introduce yourselves, or people might want to know who you are? Our group is very welcoming and friendly. Or just say hello. If this is your first time, anyone here for the first time for this discussion? Okay, so just so you know, what we do here on Monday mornings, evenings, sorry, I'm still in the morning, is that we print something and share it with the group and open the space for discussion. That's what we do. And it's an opportunity for you to engage with the teachings of the Buddha and personalize it, find your path with interesting teachings, and find inspiration before anything to practice further and strengthen your faith. Lots of things happen. And so we facilitate kind of, as a monk, we have a little bit of understanding because we continuously give talks, but you all have understandings in your own that you are here to share with us, right? Okay, we will do the introductions later, right? If you feel like introducing yourself, you can, but there's no pressure in joining in the discussion. Sometimes it's just me talking or Bhante Sankicha talking, and in the end, when we have the time, we try to accommodate a Q&A session where we discuss our questions. So before we begin with today's discussion, I was trying to distribute this one with everyone. This is the one we used 2 weeks ago to understand the 52 mental factors. It has two sides, and some of you may have the colored copy and some of you may have the print, the black and white. What we did there is to just read what these 52 are, and we gave more handouts so you can read them also. We read some parts of it. We are not going to repeat all that, but today's one is a detailed understanding of 52 mental factors, because we want to really slow down and see, where we are, trying to understand these mental factors. We have about 6 pages to go. Are we all going to read all that? No. But we need this when you try to understand certain things that are happening in your mind. But Abhidhammic people, those who love Abhidhamma, they have a passion for long lists. So this is that. Okay. So mental factors are called chetasikas again, and they rise and perish together with consciousness. So chitta is the Pali word for consciousness, and mind is the English word for that. Usually chitta is also translated as mind, and its activity is to become conscious on something, and you try to interpret that. Any questions on that? Never mind. Consciousness sharing its object and basis. Let me read that again. Mental factors, or else called chetasikas. It's C, but it's not like California. It's che sound. Chetasikas arise and perish together with consciousness, sharing its object and basis. So mental factors fall into 4 groups: universal mental factors, occasional mental factors, unwholesome mental factors, and beautiful mental factors. So the Pali is on the other side. Sabba chitta sadharana, that is the universal mental factors. Sabba chitta means every mind, sadharana, like common to every mind. Occasionals are called pakinnaka, occasionals. They may or may not arise. That's the meaning. And unwholesome mental factors like akusala. What's the opposite of akusala? Kusala. And that's my name also. Beautiful mental factors. Beautiful is called sobhana, or sobhana in the singular, sobhana in the plural. So now the universal mental factors. There are 7 mental factors which are called universal because they are common to every state of consciousness. Please join me in the reading. There are 7 mental factors which are called universals because they are common to every state of consciousness. Each consciousness is always 7 plus. So these 7 must be there, and then more. I added that. I had to talk to someone who knows Abhidhamma to get that line, because that's my Pali teacher, so I had to call him. He is living in Netherlands, and he accidentally not accidentally, he sent a message coincidentally, and then we connected and discussed a little bit about this. So each consciousness has to have these 7, and if you have this list, let's go there to find. Oh, actually the 7 are down here. Let's go there, right, before, and then we'll come back to occasionals. Contact. So let's read that. Contact, the coming together of the sense organ, object, and appropriate consciousness. So for contact to happen, there has to have a sense organ. Name one of the sense organs, please. Your eyes. And then you need to have an object, something to see, and then appropriate consciousness. So you give attention to it. You are now conscious on it, right? And then when all of that happens, you know it's a bell. There's more added into it. So that's contact. So that is common to every consciousness. Feeling. So there is a feeling involved with that. It can be pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. You may not feel anything, right? And that is also common to anything you experience, right? And then perceptions. So the fact that you are seeing a color, you are seeing a shape, you perceive something. All of that is perceiving. So that is common. And then here ekaggata is the Pali word. Like you see a mosquito, and when you are targeting it for something, you want to target the mosquito, not anything else. So you focus on it. Please don't kill mosquitoes. So focus, the mental focus on one object to the exclusion of all the other objects. So that is common to, so you exclude everything else and you focus on that. So that is the meaning of ekaggata. So no need to translate it as concentration, which may give you a different meaning, like you concentrate in meditation. So you see, Abhidhammic language is slightly different from the common Theravada language. So you see these subtleties before you come to wrestle with these words. Are you following us? Okay. And then attention, manasikara. What is that? Let's read. The mind's spontaneous turning to the object which binds the associated mental factors to it. So your mind turns toward it. So that's like little bit more than focusing. Now you set your attention to it. Well, it's kind of similar though. Manasikara, if you look at the Pali, means you are starting to multiply your thoughts based in that. Right? You are starting to, you have focused on it, and you are trying to get the details out of it. And Jivitindriya, which they translated it as psychic life, but I think I would say life faculty instead. That's common to every consciousness, which is the vital force supporting and maintaining the other mental factors. Okay, and then you have number 7, which is volition, and the Pali is chetana, which is the act of willing. From a psychological standpoint, volition determines the activities of the associated states. From an ethical standpoint, it determines its inevitable consequences. Volition leads to action by body, speech, and mind, and thus becomes the principal factor behind karma. Therefore, the Buddha said, Chetanahang bhikkhave kammang vadami. Volition, O monks, is karma, I declare. Thus, wholesome or unwholesome acts willfully done are followed at some time by their appropriate consequences. But if one unintentionally steps on an insect and kills it, such an act has no moral or karmic significance, as volition is absent. The Buddha's position here contrasts with that of his contemporary Niganta Nathaputta, the founder of Jainism. Nathaputta taught that even involuntary actions constitute karma. Thus, release from samsara, the round of rebirths, can be achieved only by abstaining from all activities, which the Buddha denied. You do basically abstain from all activities, but involuntary ones, they happen. And sometimes when they happen, you start to blame yourself and carry so much guilt. So the Buddha says you don't have to, because you didn't intend, you didn't plan to kill that, whatever that you killed, if that happened. Any place where we have to go back in that? Yeah.
How is contact different than perception? Because if contact is just the first moment when they kind of like touch together, but it's not like the full perceiving.
Yeah, contact is the beginning, definitely. It's where things arise. When you have a physical body, things arise that you start seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, and experiencing the physical world, right? That's the basic of it. Like it says 3 things for contact to arise here. If you go back, coming together of sense organ, some object, and appropriate consciousness. So you become conscious on it.
But I cannot have contact without perception.
Yes. Well, don't try to separate them as 2 events here. They all are commonly arising together. It's always 7 plus. Yes.
The order is different on these two sheets. Is there any significance?
No, I messed the order. I added two things like feelings and perceptions, because in this discussion you will find that they separated somewhere they put feeling and perception into a different place, and then they added the other five. So I brought them. I checked the order here before I added that. I thought I got the order right, but there is no order, and I think this list says it somewhere. See, under the universal mental factors on top, it says the list of 7 has no sequential significance, as they all coexist in any state of consciousness. So there is no order. Okay. And then let's go back to the beginning, because we skipped. We went to the universals. The occasional mental factors. Let's read again. The 6 mental factors are called occasionals. Unlike the universals, they need not exist in every chitta, means every consciousness. Okay, every consciousness does not need to have them. And what are those? If you go to this list, it's better because it's shorter. On the back of this list, you find the occasionals. Initial thought, sustained thought, determination, energy, rapture, wish. How many are there? 6. So those 6 are occasionals. Okay. Right. And then there are 14 unwholesome mental factors. The first 4 listed below are present in all unwholesome states of consciousness. The list is actually after this page. So the list is here. The first 4, if you go to page 2 of the handout that we are reading, you will see the first 4: delusion, shamelessness, fearlessness, restlessness. But we are coming back to that list again. Just understand the 4 groups here first. And then there are 25 beautiful factors. 19 are common to all beautiful thoughts. 6 are variable. The latter are the 3 abstinence factors, 2 illimitables, and the wisdom factor. So these are all 25 altogether. So they are called sobhana, beautiful factors. And now we will read from occasionals on page 2. Here. Occasionals. Initial application, vitakka, which applies the other mental factors to the object when attention has brought it into range. So vitakka and vichara are 2 different words, and vitakka is just the thought, and vichara is examining that thought. So vichara is not here, but now you see initial application here, that's how they translated it, but just having a thought, that's what it means. Oh yeah, vichara is here actually, the next one. So oh, actually that's number 1. Initial application is number 1, vitakka. So that can occasionally happen or not happen. Any question?
Does this mean meaning that we have perception, feelings, etc., but we don't necessarily have a thought about something that
Yeah.
that is present in our consciousness.
Yes, in many cases. Good question. Number two, number one has to be number two here. Continued application, vichara, which makes the mental factors dwell on the object. It's like dragging all the mental factors in that direction to make a story about it, or be concerned on something. So you examine it. And so number three here is determination, but in this translation you'll find resolution. So keep two lists together, hand in hand. Which prevents the mental factors from wavering and makes a decision. So you haven't made the decision until that point. Now you made the decision. How the mind works, basically, just the map of it. An effort which may or may not be present in every thought, which energizes the mental factors and opposes idleness. Okay, so that effort is sometimes present in some thoughts and sometimes absent in other thoughts. And joy, the Pali word is piti, which creates an interest in the object, giving the mind buoyancy. So here you see in the seven universals, you did not find joy. Why is that? If you say joy is present in everything and every time, we should all be laughing all the time, right? That is why it's not there. Because we are not it's not common to every consciousness. Does it make any sense? Dawn, were you going to say something?
I was going to ask if joy, because it's the same Pali word, joy and rapture, is it the same?
Yeah, rapture is little more than joy.
Okay.
So
it's different than the rapture.
yes. But then translators try to translate it, look at them as synonymous sometimes. So, but over the years, Glenn may have a word on that.
PT, the three words for happiness are PT, which can range from mild happiness to extreme happiness. Sukha, which is pleasure or body happiness,
Mm-hmm.
although they use it loosely.
Mm-hmm.
And pamoja,
Mm-hmm.
and that's a lesser kind of pervasive gladness.
Yes.
You'll find that out of four translators, one will translate PD happiness, another will translate it joy, another will translate it rapture. So you almost have to look up the Pali to see what the word is when
Mm-hmm.
you translate it.
Yeah. So those three words, piti, sukha, and pamoja, it's very hard to differentiate them. But when you look at Pali, just like you advised, pamoja is just like that joy that, like, you get excited about something and it disappears after that event. Piti is an awakening factor also, right? It's so now you are feeling joyful about your practice, and joy tells you that you are doing something right in your practice, and that joy is based in wholesome practice, nothing unwholesome in there. So it reassures that you are on the right path. And there is also another word, that is tranquility. That's like samatha, which is also a kind of a happiness for some people when they translate it. So your question was the difference between rapture and joy. So I would say joy is the normal joy as we translate it, but they always use, not always, but in most cases they translate piti as joy, like, but then happy is also joy. So rapture, like I said, it can be a developed stage of that, or sustained stage of that, in my understanding. I should say in my understanding, because it may be not the way somebody else understands it, of course. So yeah, let's leave it there, and then we will bring back those questions and thoughts into our continued discussion also, so we understand things better. All right. And then chanda, which is wish to do something, the desire to act, the wish to achieve an aim, because chanda is also found in other places. When you talk about 37 factors of enlightenment, you have chanda there as an exertion. Now you set your, you have the desire to practice that kind of chanda, and you make effort. So that list, those lists are different from Abhidhammic list, but this is just the occasionally you have wish to do something, so it's occasional, you wish it, and sometimes you don't wish but they arise. And then they say the universals and occasionals become wholesome, unwholesome, or neither, depending on the state of consciousness in which they occur. Okay, so there can be consciousnesses that arise, wholesome and unwholesome consciousnesses, or neither wholesome nor unwholesome, and so universals and occasionals take the shape of them as depending on the nature. You don't need to think too much about these. We are now reading a list, just like we are in a restaurant going through the menu, to see what we have. So that's it. And then you are coming to the unwholesome factors. If you see this list, there are 14 of those. Number one, what is number one? Delusion. Moha is synonymous with ignorance regarding the Four Noble Truths. What is Four Noble Truths? Four Noble Truths.
Cause of suffering, cessation of suffering, and
Are you whispering to someone? So the truth of suffering, number one, the origin of suffering, number two, and what's the third one? Cessation. So that the truth that you can cease, end this suffering, that is the truth. And the fourth one is the path leading to the cessation of suffering. These four. So those are the four truths that the Buddha discovered. And when you practice, you will also say, wow, what a truth that there is this truth of suffering. Wow, what a truth that we can end this suffering, that someone has discovered it and has taught that path to us. And wow, what a truth that we can now practice this path. That's how you personalize it in your practice. And delusion obviously is unwholesome, right? So it's clear. And shamelessness of evil. So you see, this has little bit more details, like shamelessness of evil is lack of conscience, not as a mysterious inner voice, but as an abhorrence towards evil. Sadhguru always says, when somebody does something because they're they heard a voice, there's always disastrous consequences. Right? I heard a voice telling me to do this, so I did that. And he always says, that's a disaster. So, when you have true conscience telling you to do it, there you have, articulated it well, you have set your intentions, and you are mostly doing the right thing. I think I once said, true conscience is like a soft pillow, right? You can rest well, and you have clarity, so you don't really worry about things. You don't have to remember things. When you lie, please don't lie. If you lie, people need to remember, right? That's because you lied. But that's not the case when you haven't lied, that you are you have clear conscience. Number 3, fearlessness of evil, anotappa, is moral recklessness resulting from ignorance about the moral law. So you are fearlessly you don't have any fear of doing evil things. You are an evil, you kind of process evil thoughts, and you do harm to yourself or do harm to somebody else. So that's an aspect that is unwholesome according to the Buddhist terminology. Number 4, restlessness, uddhacca. So that is unwholesome too, but is a state of excitement that characterizes all unwholesome acts, contrasting with the peace that accompanies wholesome acts. When you do wholesome acts, you are not restless. You are rested in your mind. Is that the way you would put it? There is so much peace because it's wholesome. You're doing something good. There you don't have to worry about anything. That's why sometimes people say white lies, because in your mind you know you are trying to save somebody's life when you say that. Like saving lives of those Jewish people sometimes, in Nazis period, that they're under the table and you are saying there's nobody here, just to save their lives. And then you have so much joy that you saved someone from killing by saying that. Do you agree that that's a good thing to do? That's certainly a good thing to do. You kind of try to send the enemy away. That's your intention, right? But don't justify your lies as that's something to say. I told that lie to save your life. No. If it is really a life-saving lie, please tell that. So.
Sometimes I feel like I'm restless, but I don't.
It's not that restlessness. I mean, yeah, go ahead.
No, and that's why I'm a little confused on what restlessness means here, because there are times in our lives, where we can become restless.
Yeah, you are restless because you want to achieve a goal, you want to, talk to your boss about something, or your other boss, you want to tell something to your colleagues. Then you become restless because you are processing. So here, it's part of that restlessness too, but in a way it's unwholesome when it is your practice, right? Where you are practicing now, we are practicing deeper meditation levels or just simple meditation steps, and you are restless because of your defilements, and your mind is not steadied, not focused well, and you lose track, that kind of restlessness. So life situation, real life situation, restlessness is one kind of restlessness, but this is mostly about you practicing. That was the priority of the Buddha's teachings also. someone to understand this and focus on the practice. He did support people living in a worldly life and all that, but when they come to understand the teachings, he did teach these things directly. But you are restless also because sometimes you don't really have the right answer, right? You don't really know which way to approach. So I think they are not too different also. Yeah.
So, but you could see that any type of restlessness really is because you're giving too much value to external things, right? Like you're attaching.
It's definitely a restless situation. You are giving too much value for something that you shouldn't be giving value to. But we always end up doing that though, right? Expectations, and then we end up being restless. You are expecting someone to go this way, but they don't, and then you become restless. Do you have a question?
Not a question, I was actually
Comment?
thinking through that, but I was actually thinking this the restlessness here
Mhm.
it talks about the restlessness for the acts of unwholesome things. So you are restless in your mind to commit something unwholesome. So it's little bit, I think it's a little bit different.
On the unwholesome side.
Yeah, that's what I interpret as come under the unwholesome category. So yeah, I mean you can be restless
Mm-hmm.
in your thoughts to find if you're curious of something, to find an answer, to analyze something.
Mm-hmm. You are restless.
You're restless, and it can actually come into the occasional factors of the vitakka vichara.
Yeah.
Vitakka is the first application, and continuous application
Yeah.
can lead into restlessness, but
Mhm.
that can lead into, if it is kind of you're restless of finding an answer or
Yeah.
a wholesome thing, probably then it might lead into
I think there you have the right intention.
right.
So it is not unwholesome.
Right. So I think the restlessness in here actually talks about the unwholesome activity.
Yes. Yes. Everybody agrees?
Would you
Yes.
say it's like mental unease?
Yes. Mental discomfort. There you have. But the question is, why is it unwholesome, right? That's also your question. Like, I'm restless now because, and then is it talking about that restlessness?
I guess reading more into listening to you guys talk, they have unwholesome mental factors here, and it says restlessness is the act of all these mental factors. That's it. So the act of attachment, the act of delusion, right, act of shamelessness. Then I could see an example if I'm trying to look, to say job, right? And God
Yeah.
interview, it's the attachment that I put into getting that job that's making me restless. I guess.
Yes. But could we live without those? I think in ordinary life we do experience all of that. Like before you face an interview, everybody is sitting at the edge of, not knowing what's yet to happen, what's going to happen. So they are a little restless. They are trying to interpret it in this way. How will I introduce myself? Will it go wrong? And how will they judge me? So you get lots of thoughts there, and that's because of this of the expectation. Basically, you're expecting something to, but is that wrong though? I think in our life, I would say you need to have expectations and anxiety also. When you look at in the right way, like a child may be anxious because anxious before presenting something. That's because that child wants to do better. If they didn't care, they would not feel anxious, or they just ignore it and they may just not do a good job. Yeah.
But could you care without? So
Yeah, you could care without being
without being anxious.
anxious.
So can we distinguish between like restlessness that is
Wholesome.
characterized, within an unwholesome act,
Mm-hmm.
and restlessness that is, related to attachment or to what our worldly activity
I
that
think
is something
definitely
that
we should do that distinction here, right? When you do something right, you are not restless, also because you are not affected by any unwholesome motives, right? And when you
Also, the wholesome chittasika always arise together with other wholesome. So one way you can tell whether the restlessness you have is wholesome or unwholesome is what's there with it.
exactly. So you need to see the full dish to understand what they have cooked and what it tastes like. So you are going. So it's just we can point at restlessness only, but without having the whole scenario, you may not understand whether it is wholesome or unwholesome. But restlessness, there can be effort without restlessness. There can be good intentions without being restless. Okay. And should we go further?
Yes.
What time is it? Oh, it's 8:30. We will read the list and then maybe continue the discussion after, but then open it for more questions. Attachment, lobha, synonymous with craving, is one of the three unwholesome roots, occurring in both gross and subtle forms. So that is lobha, which is unwholesome, that you are craving something. Is obviously among the main teachings of the Buddha of three unwholesome roots: greed, hatred, and delusion. All of them are here already. And what's your question? Okay. And then false view, ditti, is seeing things in a distorted way. There are several kinds of false views. The view of a truly existent self, sakkaya ditti; eternalism, sassata ditti; or nihilism, ucceda ditti; the view denying the efficacy of or fruits of karma, natti ditti; denying causality, ahetuka ditti; and denying moral law, ahiriya ditti. So these can have dangerous consequences. That you don't believe in cause and effect, you don't believe in karma, you don't believe in moral law. But in Buddhism, the word believing is not encouraged, just so you know. But we use that just to talk about something in general terms. Let's read all the 14. Conceit, mana, is self-evaluation which arises from comparing oneself with another as better, equal, or inferior. What is better from these?
Superior.
None of these are good. Someone can be really good and then you think you are equal to them. That's bad, right? So you don't compare with anybody. You don't, make comparisons in life. That puts you down, or someone is lower than you, someone is superior than you. All of that is unnecessary. Because you compare because you have conceit. Mana is like measuring. That's the literal meaning of it. Mana, you measure. That person is superior, inferior, or equal to you. In general, although when you live your life, you kind of treat your friends as your equal, or you show high respect to some people because monks or others who are in some better you put them in a better position, but that's because that's a different understanding. But this is conceit, that you do it out of conceit, right, in an unwholesome way, where there you get in trouble. Hatred, dosa. This is not the food dosa available in India or in Sri Lanka. Hatred. Don't hate dosa. Another unwholesome root is a negative response to the object, ranging from a slight aversion to destructive rage. So it starts from little slight aversion, and then it can be destructive. Self-hate, wanting to cut yourself or harm somebody. That's because all of that is because of hate. Envy, issa, is the inability to endure the prosperity of others. This is associated with hate. You are jealous of someone. Unwholesome. Selfishness, maccharya, is a wish to exclude others from one's own prosperity. This too is associated with hate. Just like that rich father, when his son got sick, he closed the main door and put the son outside so visitors will not see all the wealth. And he did not even spend his wealth to find a cure for the illness of the son. So selfish. But we don't say you are selfish to someone. That's a mean thing to say. So that's also because of mana, conceit, that you say something like that. Worry, kukucha, is remorse, brooding and repenting over evil acts done in the past or good acts left undone. So do good, please. And 12 and 13, sloth and torpor, thina midda. This para indicates laziness or boredom, a frequent hindrance to spiritual progress. 14, doubt, vichikicha, is the undecided frame of mind. You are doubting whether you are on the right track in your practice and so on and so forth. So next time you come, please bring this. Any questions?
Yes, I do have a question. So here it says that of the 14 unwholesome mental factors,
Yeah.
only the first 4 are present in all unwholesome states.
Oh yeah, let's look at that.
But then why, like, I would have thought that attachment would be one of those present in all unwholesome states.
Maybe not. You are not basically attached to ignorance, right? You are just ignorance. You are ignoring the truth, right? It's not attachment per se. That's why they distinctively mention it as a different unwholesome state. But you can think of it that way, that you are ignorant because you have some attachment. So you can put all this together and say just delusion or ignorance. You can find one word, you can find 14 ways to explain it. But the first 4, if you see delusion, this is about doing something unwholesome. Put that into your mind first. And you do that because of delusion. You do that unwholesome because of your evilness, and because you are not fearing any evil, and because you are restless. These 4 can be present in doing an evil act. Okay. And if you see this list again, you see something important there. Under 14 unwholesome here, are you all looking at this? You see, within the unwholesome, there are, they say, 10 occasionals. So unwholesome occasionals, right? Excluding the universals, what is below, how many are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 6 plus 4, 10, right? So you see in this list there can be these 4 universal to all unwholesomes. They are not the same universals that you understood before, right? So they are common to all unwholesomes, but apart from that, the rest of the 10 can occur occasionally. That's how you understand this chart. Okay, don't try to bring that same understanding to this.
And the numbers are obviously the
Numbers
the
on the
same,
back.
but oh, okay. I was okay. Yes.
Basically the same.
Yes.
Any more questions? Okay, thank you for coming. So we'll continue this discussion until we are enlightened. So let's transfer merits as we usually do. May suffering ones be suffering free, and the fear struck fearless be. May the grieving shed all grief, and may all beings find relief. May all beings share this merit that we have thus acquired for the acquisition of all kinds of happiness. May beings inhabiting space and earth, devas and nagas of mighty power, share this merit of ours. May they long protect the Buddha's dispensation. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Let me turn it so that they see who is there, and then